Welcome back to Casual Watch Review channel. We got another press loaner in from the team over at Citizen US, so a big thanks to them for lending this into the channel. This is one of the new, this is a limited edition Promaster Land version, the 35th anniversary. This is a really interesting watch, not for the fact that it also comes with a camo, sea camo strap, as well as the metal bracelet. This is an Annie Digi watch, and there's a few things we need to go over, especially the fact that the crown isn't really a crown on this watch. So let's flip the camera around and dive straight in. Wow, this, like a lot of the Citizen Promaster Land and a lot of their professional watches, this is unapologetically a tool watch. Limited edition to 5,900 pieces, the JV1008-63E. I believe there is currently 3 other versions of this watch, so there's 4 in total. This with the camo pattern on the dial. Not only do we have the camo effect on the dial, there is a laser etching, I believe it's a laser engraving on the bezel here, so there is some texture to it of that camo pattern, and then the camo pattern is also on the included strap as well. The only bad thing about this strap is I wish it had quick release on it so you could easily swap it out off and onto the strap. This is substantial enough, this strap, to support the weight of this watch. It's coming in at 212 grams. While we're on that, let's talk about the specifications of this watch. The case is a 22mm lug width, a 43.9 case size. Lug to lug is coming in at a 51.2. As this watch has male end links, it does protrude beyond the case. With those male end links, it's coming in at a 56.8 and then a 13.9 thickness. Those do sound like very chunky proportions, but the case magicians over there at Citizen, they've made this, even though it is a larger watch, it's still extremely wearable. Here you can see it on my 7.2 inch wrist. So even though it is heavier with larger proportions, I think this just balances well on the wrist. None of these pushers push into the wrist at all. The hands are highly legible, sword style hands. The loom on here is absolutely spectacular. Not only do we have the Arabics and the indices and then the hands loomed, the other text and detail elements of the dial are also loomed, including the Citizen logo, which I don't think I've seen on a Citizen watch before. And there also is a backlight. I'll action the backlight here in the studio, but you won't be able to see it until I switch to dark. It's a very subtle backlight. This isn't like a G-Shock. This is a very subtle backlight, a very subtle reddy orange backlight. It lights the MIP display, but it doesn't do a good job at lighting the rest of the display, which is fine because you can rely on that spectacular loom for the hands and the subdials. One of the cool things with this watch is the bracelet is really nice. It comes in this gunmetal PVD coating, which I have to keep rubbing my fingerprints off because it's that type of PVD coating that really just absorbs your fingerprints as soon as you touch it. But overall, a very solid bracelet. They've included a milled mechanism, which I love to see. I don't like it when Citizen use those press clasps. Unfortunately, there's no on-the-fly micro adjust, which I would have liked to have seen on this. And this fold over is a little bit flimsy in comparison to the solid feeling machine mechanism of the clasp, but overall very functional. This uses the pin and collar to adjust it. Nice to see we have both strap options, and it's a 22mm lug width. This would look great on a leather strap or even one of Citizen's rubber straps. I think this would look really cool on. Let's talk about the watch itself, because I have to say, for me, there is a lot of confusing elements to it. And I don't mean confusing about the usability of the watch, because once you get the hang of it, then it is easy, as with a lot of Citizens, to get the watch set. Although, unfortunately, it doesn't have atomic timekeeping, which, of course, would have made the setting the watch a lot easier if you can get the signal reception. Why I say it's confusing? Well, the 2 chronograph pushers here look as if they're screw down, but they're not. This is a faux screw down pushers. Also, the crown isn't really a traditional crown. You can't pull it out. And even though you can rotate this crown, rotation doesn't really do anything when you're setting the time, and we'll go through some of the time settings. And the other confusing thing I have to say is the inner rotating compass bezel. This isn't screwed down, this is just free moving. I think if they wanted to include a compass on this model, they could have put a compass module in it and then use this MIP display, this high contrast MIP MIP display to perhaps show the direction that the watch was pointing in. I'm not sure it's that useful, an inner rotating compass bezel, although I'm sure the users that do find the inner rotating bezel functional are definitely going to be letting me know in the comments now, feverishly typing away there, but I certainly don't think it's as useful as if they'd included a compass module and then the MIP display simply showing you the direction that you were being pointed in, because it does have a beautifully high contrasted display. The outer bezel I think is quite confusing because it appears as if there's some kind of grip, but that doesn't do anything. This bezel itself doesn't move, not that it has any markings on it anyway, but it doesn't move to set any of the functions. And then these elements, even though they have grips on them, don't look to be doing anything either. The main confusing thing for me, and something that my brain can't adjust to, is every time I pick this watch up, I end up picking it up this way where the Annie Digi is at the bottom. For some reason, when I pick it up, my brain just defaults to having this Annie Digi at the bottom, and I have to say, I think it looks better that way around. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Maybe it's because this looks like a face with two eyes and then the MIP display being the mouth, but for some reason I just think it looks better that way. Maybe this crown, if it was at the bottom, or these crowns were on the other side, if the outer case was the other way around and the MIP display on the bottom, for some reason I just think that looks better. One of the other confusing elements of this watch as well, and I've seen a couple of reviewers make reference to this, including my good friend Watch Chris. They've mentioned that if you press this button, it turns the MIP display from a negative to a positive, and they've listed that as a function of, depending on your preference, whether you want it to be positive or negative. But I don't think that's what that does. I think that when you press that and it goes to the positive display, that's telling you that you've now actioned the functions of this watch. I'll show you what I mean. So if I press the function of this watch now, I've got my time zone as Denver, and then I can go to my London, my second time zone, and Denver, so I can have both there. And then I can simply scroll through to the different details that I want, the different display of the time. If I press this button, that's the light. What I think this button does, so let me just set that, settings complete there, is when you press it and it goes to a positive display, this button, the light button, then allows you to scroll back and forth through the other features of the watch. There's the home time zone, the chronograph, the timer, and then where you can see the other time zone. So there's UTC and NYC instead of before it was Denver. And then you see now that that's gone back to its negative, that now becomes the light button. So this button, I think, actions it to positive and then allows you to get through the settings. Now you think you'd be able to scroll the settings through this, but you can't. You have to use the button. So even though the crown does revolve round, as far as I can tell, that is not a way to set the watch or to scroll through any of the menus. A couple of confusing things with this watch. I think you do get a display of what setting you're on here, and then you have the light indicator. But overall, aesthetically, I still love the look of this watch, and I'm very interested to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. So let's put it on wrist and see what you think. Here you can see the watch on my 7.2 inch wrist, very comfortable to wear, nicely balanced. This is coming in at $800, so it certainly is an investment, this watch. I'm not sure whether they'll be doing any special offers on this. Sometimes Citizen do special offers on their website, so keep an eye out for that. $795, nicely balanced on the wrist. A really interesting Citizen, well-designed, nice case construction, but a couple of confusing elements in there as well. More importantly, what did you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel, love it if you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up and the bell notification, and I'll see you all next time on Casual Watch Reviews.